So yeah, thank you for all attending, all at rather short notice, but it's great to have you here. So our mission is to inform and educate and share as much as we can around the Microsoft 365 platform and Azure platform as well. We're sort of aimed at the technologists, but also citizens and developers, with a business focus. And we're always looking to engage potential users and existing users of those platforms, but most importantly, looking to help provide a place, a safe space for people to come and present and develop that next wave of talent. And that's something which is really important because we've all benefited from similar approaches over the years as well. So I do like to think we're one of the friendlier user groups. The team is the Simons, myself, Mr. Hudson, and Dylan. And you can get us via Meetup and Twitter, and there are respective links. We haven't started the in-person, have we yet? But I think, as Simon, you're saying, we'll probably look to start this in the new year. But hopefully we'll have a Christmas do, some Christmas drinks, I think. That's the plan. We were planning to have this today at the Adelphi, but with things happening last week, we've cancelled that. But yeah, we'll continue with the virtual events until then. Our next session will be the 18th of October, and it's going to be an Ignite after party, and it's all of us, getting everybody involved, understanding, educating what's new, but also, getting insights. What do people think is really interesting that's been launched at Ignite? So yeah, it should be interesting to see what's next. If it's going to be a continued focus on Power Platform, I'm sure it will be. What about some of the Azure pieces as well? So that should be good. We've got loads of events. I mean, it's really sort of kicked off in September. We've got our maturity model practitioner session next Tuesday, the 20th. It's at 3 o'clock British Summer Time. There's a link there, and the topic we're talking around maturity model is sort of staff and training and how to elevate that. We've got our rock star is Heather Savino, who's an MVP and an MCT. So that should be really interesting to see what she has. We did have a session today. It was interesting, some of the topics of conversation there. Following that, on the 5th of October, down in Milton Keynes at the National Museum of Computing, we've got Collab Days, and that's just, absolutely fantastic. And I know that people in, there's a few of us who are going to be down there. Dan, hopefully you'll be coming too. That should be a really good session. Some great speakers and a great venue just to kind of geek out on and see the history of computing.
A remarkable place.
Yeah. And then sort of following that the next week, we've got Microsoft Ignite, October the 12th to the 14th. There are some in-person events. There's one in Manchester. So, get onto that register link and register for Ignite. So it should be, that should be interesting. And then
in-person slots for Manchester are sold out because I tried.
They sold out already, have they?
Yeah, no, we went poof like that. It's like some kind of rock gig. So register for the online experience and put yourself on the waiting list if you want to get onto the in-person side.
Okay, thank you. And then literally the day after, you've got then one of the big events, the South Coast Summit, the 13th to 15th, 13th, 14th, is sort of various sort of workshops on all things Power Platform, cloud compliance, all sorts in there. So, and then on the 15th is the actual conference. Looks like I've never been, but it was a great venue. So, register there. And I think they're also looking to sort of raise some money through selling swag as well. So maybe get yourself a t-shirt or something. And then last but by no means least, we've got on the 12th of November, the Viva Explorers Roadshow, which is at it's a Microsoft venue, isn't it? So University Academy 92, based in Manchester, and there's a link there as part of the M365 UK meetup. So yeah, so just some summary links, and I think that's about it. Okay, right. So we'll get cracking on with the main presentation. So, Simon, do you have to want to say or?
No, I think you've covered it all. So why don't you do the thing? You're in the hot seat today.
Cool. Okay, so first of all, I will make my excuses now. This is the first time that I've done this session. It got completed about 2 hours ago. It's been run through once or twice. So yeah, we'll see how we get on. But yeah, thanks for joining us. So the session is, it's an introduction to kind of the OKR and the OKR framework. So just explaining what the heck it is. And it's also an introduction to Microsoft Viva Goals. Viva Goals it's an exciting new offering. It's part of the Viva employee experience family, and it's quite different, I think, to a lot of the other products which Microsoft have released. And it's very, very, I think it's quite easy to see that it's aimed at at the whole business, particularly senior management, allowing them to define and plan their strategy and align the work and the objectives that the business has to the rest of the organization. So, in this talk, we're going to introduce you to OKRs, Viva Goals, give some, using discussion, some hints and tips and some demos. We aim to sort of talk and answer the following, so what challenges are OKRs looking to solve? What are they? Why would you want to implement OKRs? And then what is Viva Goals? Talking about things like licensing, adoption, the core concepts around Viva Goals. And how do you get started? How do you get going with OKRs and Viva Goals? And then, giving you some things to take away with a set of resources so you can get started on your journey. So that's what we're going to do. Right. So my name's Simon Doyle. I'm going to be your speaker today. I'm founder of iThink365, a sort of small 365 and Azure consultancy, and I'm the CTO. I've been involved in IT for 20 plus years now, maybe nearly 25, and I sort of call myself a solution architect, a developer, being one of the leaders of the SharePoint user group, M365 North, so since 2014. So yes, it's nice to be able to talk to you today. So our agenda today is, explaining what is it that we're looking to solve, the challenge, explaining what the heck an OKR is, and explaining why you'd want to use Viva Goals and then we'll go into kind of how Viva Goals help solve those challenges, some demos, and then any questions. But if you've got a question, I'll try and keep an eye out for hands going up. Then just please put your hand up and we'll have a chat. So let's talk about the why, the challenges. So what challenges are we trying to solve? So end of the day, we want businesses to be successful and grow. We want them to succeed. And one of the key habits for successful business, and actually for people, is to have a plan. And if you've got it written down, even better. As Benjamin Franklin said, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. So by having a plan, the business has direction and knows where it is going. You know, sure, on that road we might make a few wrong turns, but we're present while we're on that journey, and we're not just sort of meandering around, getting lost and going down cul-de-sacs and things. So yeah, it's important that we do have a plan. And you know, on my journey with iThink, it's something which you know, we've sort of really taken to heart, and so OKRs can help with that. So, you know, it's great. The business has got a plan, it's got a strategy, it knows what it's wanting to do, but then how do you communicate the plan through the business? You know, you can use an intranet to define the strategy and communicate through sort of town hall meetings. When you get into detail, it can be difficult to communicate exactly what you're looking to do, and also the changes. You know, those plans will need to change, and how you keep those people, you know, keep your employees, the teams, the departments in the know. And also, you know, when we do use the intranet, then that plan is going to be high level, and it's aimed at the business. But then how do you then break that plan down so, you know, the departments know what they need to do to meet the objectives? And then how do you break it down so the individual is contributing to the plan as well? So it's one of the challenges. And so we've got a plan, and we've got, you know, we're sort of looking to get everyone working and aligned so that your teams are, you know, the teams are doing the important stuff. So how do you do that? You know, how can you get it so that you're making sure they work on the important stuff? So we need to, you know, explain to the teams, you know, why it is that they are working on these things, and giving them a sense of purpose, some, you know, some direction. You know, the sense of purpose is something which I've, you know, been understanding a lot more. You know, it's just one of the motivating factors. You know, when you understand why you're doing something, then you'll be more committed, and you'll enjoy what you're doing because you can kind of see what the end game is. And that's something which OKRs can do, because you can see, oh, I'm doing this, and that means that this is happening, and then, you know, fundamentally that means the business is going in the direction that it needs to go. So yeah, it really helps then to sort of, you know, visualize how you sort of fit into that bigger picture. Okay, and then, you know, so now we've got, you know, this sort of idea that we've got people all sort of in alignment, but how do we, you know, track that? How do we know that we have this plan and the actions that are on that plan? How do we track and make sure that we're on track? So we will talk about that as well. And then finally, you know, how do you know that you've met your goals? So yeah, we you know, we say we're on track, or you know, maybe we're behind. How do we then know that we've actually succeeded and met those goals? And you know, we'll talk about what a good goal is, and one of the things is you need to be able to measure that goal. So one approach to tackling these challenges is to use OKRs, and OKRs are objectives and key results, which we'll sort of delve into a bit further. And it was invented by Andy Grove in the 1970s, who was the CEO at Intel, and he took the idea of MBO from a chap called Peter Drucker, and then sort of upgraded it with the concept of these key results, these measures. And so he became the father of that OKR framework. And what sort of really catapulted it, you know, since sort of 99 or so, is that Google have taken it on, and they've been using it, and that's been helping them to get, you know, huge growth, and so they've continued on. And then a lot of other well-known organizations have taken on the OKR framework, including people like Airbnb and LinkedIn, Dropbox, Spotify, Netflix, Amazon. You know, so some reasonably successful companies. Yeah, so, you know, that's you know, that gives you some sort of background of OKRs, but we're going to delve into what they are now. So let's talk about the what. So what is an OKR? So as I mentioned previously, OKR stands for objective and key result. You know, what's an objective? Well, it's, you know, this is the aim of the activity, you know, what we're trying to achieve, our objective or goal. And, you know, to be fair, objectives can be tricky to define. You know, you can have a good objective, you know, you can have a bad objective, and we can help here with some tips on what makes a good objective. So what makes a good objective? There are a couple of schools of thought, and in Microsoft, in their adoption guide, which I'll link to later, they do have a slightly different approach, where they sort of talk about objectives really stretching and, you know, not being something you might sort of put something out of reach. But I certainly agree that they need to stretch the organization. They don't want to be too easy, but I do think they need to be achievable. So I use the acronym SMART for SMART goals or SMART objectives. So the S is for specific. You know, we need to be able to describe exactly what we're looking to achieve, you know, in a sentence. You know, it doesn't need, you know, you don't want it to be woolly. It needs to be specific, so you can understand from the, you know, the sentence of that objective what it's looking to do. We need to be able to measure the goal. So, you know, in order to be able to track alignment and, you know, ultimately see if we've succeeded, we need to have some measurement behind it. It needs to be achievable. As I mentioned before, you know, this is where Microsoft, you know, sort of the guide differs slightly. So achievable, you know, you don't want it to be too easy. And I think it's one of those things where as you go through this process, you'll learn about, you know, within your organization, whether a goal is too easy or hard, you know, and there's, you know, there's no black and white. You know, a lot of this is trying things out and seeing how they work for you in the organization. They need to be realistic. You know, we do need to be able to do it, you know, and when we think about, you know, being realistic, you know, these goals are set over a period of time. It may be a year, or you know, when we get down to demo, it's generally over sort of 90 days, over a quarter. So it needs to be possible within those timescales. And I have to say, when I started setting out my goals, I wasn't realistic. I was trying to do too much, you know, in a 90-day period. And then they also need to have time. You know, you need to factor in how long is it that we've got to meet these goals, as this creates that motivation and the urgency about, you know, for delivering those goals. Also, there's another aspect of a good objective, and that's that you need to have some emotion. You know, you've got to have some sort of, you know, you've got to have some feeling behind it. And something I've learned a lot about is emotion. And so we need to, you know, when you're coming up with the goals for the business, you know, or your department or you individually, you know, thinking about what does it mean to you? You know, why do you want to achieve this? What does it mean to you? And what does it mean to your team and the organization? And how would you feel when you achieve it? What would you feel when you achieve it? And if you're not going to really feel anything, if it's, you know, you're not really that bothered, that's probably not a good goal to go for. You know, pick something else. So, you know, you've got to have that drive. So it's got to mean something to you. So some good examples, you know, that sort of came up over the last couple of days. You know, increased number of LinkedIn followers by 100 followers in 90 days, increased turnover by 10% in 90 days, or maybe better still, you know, increased turnover to 100K a month, you know, in 90 days. So, you know, something which again has got those, it's got the measurements, it's achievable, realistic, and it's got the time in there. Okay. So then the other aspect of the OKR, the KR is the key result. So these are the measurements, As we mentioned before in with our SMART goals or SMART objectives, we need to be able to measure our objective so that we know when we've succeeded, and we also need to be able to see how the progress is going. So these measures, or they also key performance indicators, KPIs, they're going to measure the goal and track its progress, make sure that we can see whether we're on or off track when it's been met. And these key results, we need to update those regularly so that we can kind of see the progress of the goal. So that's great. We've covered some of the key aspects of OKRs, but how does this all sort of come together? So Microsoft Viva Goals enables this OKR framework within your business. It's part of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, and it enables you to define an action and visualize and report on your business and its plan and how successful it is towards the objectives that plan has. The sort of the definition process, generally, we start at that business top level, defining those objectives, defining the key results, at the business level, and then those then get distilled down, shared to the heads of department, and then the departments then define objectives which support the business's objectives, and we also create key results for them as well. And then working our way through departments, there may be another hierarchy there where departments are split into teams, and then the teams are then into individuals who then have their objectives and key results. So one of the ones which we're looking at the moment is sort of creating a learning organization. So the business might have an objective about being a learning organization. We measure it using Microsoft Learn experience points, and then the departments have a set of metrics which they need to achieve, and individuals, they need to achieve a set number of experience points over a 90-day period. So they're all supporting that business objective. And then we've talked about objectives, key results, but how do we achieve OKRs? So there may be some activities which need to happen, and to make these OKRs, to achieve these objectives, and that's and Viva Goals has this concept of a project. So we've got work streams which are supporting delivering an objective, and that itself becomes a key result. And projects are made up of activities and tasks which are, need to happen in order for that project to be completed. And Viva Goals has a couple of ways of doing this. You can use projects and tasks within Viva Goals. It's got that sort of functionality. It's quite simple, or you can defer to something like Azure DevOps. And I have to say, I've not set Azure DevOps up, so I'm not, we won't talk about that today, but that may be another session to talk about. And we've talked about the fact that we've got these key results. We need to monitor the objective and see how we're getting on. And in Viva Goals, we do that through something called a check-in. And you've got two types of check-ins. You've got manual ones where users are prompted, based on a check-in frequency, which we'll talk about and I'll show you later, to check in and update that metric. And you can see in the screenshot there, we've got a little, a section here where we can put in some notes to kind of talk about, why it is that metric is updated, and give some sort of story as to what's going on there. If it's ahead of schedule or it's behind, or even if it's on track. So we can check that in, and I have to say it's a really nice, the way that Viva Goals does it. You can sort of check in all your key results all at the same time. It's got a really well thought out interface. So, you know, the check-in frequency, the organization decides on that. And at the moment we sort of do that on a Monday morning, but I'll show you that. But you could, you know, some organizations are doing it monthly, but I like the idea of having that weekly cadence. I think that's a, you know, a good way of getting into the habit of keep pushing on those objectives. Otherwise it's something which kind of, if you do it once a month, you know, it becomes like, oh, I've got to, you know, do something on, you know, to achieve that objective, and it might be the end of the month, which is harder to plan. So yeah, and then the other aspect of it is, you know, how do we, you know, report and present the progress of these OKRs? You know, how could we do things like town hall events and talk about all the objectives of the business and drill down and show what's going on? And one way of doing that, Viva Goals has these dashboards, and these dashboards have a presentation mode, so it's kind of quite similar to a SharePoint, you know, web page. You can add in widgets to tell the story around your OKRs. There's a sort of a key updates section which you can fill in and describe what's been going on and the activity on those OKRs as well, to tell that story to, you know, the rest of the business, or to your, you know, into the rest of the departments or the teams, or even, you know, weekly one-to-ones where you know, you've got your looking through your individual OKRs and discussing those with your manager. Right. Okay. So that's kind of an overview of, you know, sort of the challenge, talking about introducing what OKRs are, and then how they can be used. I'm going to sort of do a bit of a demonstration and set some OKRs up and show you some of those sort of features. Any questions? Oh, all right. So let me just share the screen. Just bring up my Word document with all my instructions. So Viva Goals. You can access it through goals.microsoft.com. It's also an application in Microsoft Teams, of course, which your organization, you can add to your organization. And you have organizations within Viva Goals. So, you know, each tenant, you know, your Azure Active Directory tenant or your Microsoft 365 tenant, you can have multiple organizations, but Microsoft do recommend that you have one organization which all of this lives in. And I'm just going to go through the whole process. Now, something which I haven't worked out is how to delete one of these organizations yet. I did do some looking around, but I haven't found that. But we'll create a new organization so you can see what that looks like. So let's do that. So I'll call it 2, and we can put in the name, a description about the organization. So and you know, you can sort of define who can join the organization, whether it's anybody can get in or you're restricting it. So it might be that you would want to restrict it as you're starting your journey, and bringing people in, but eventually, you know, making it available to anybody in 365, and that's not not including guests. So we'll make that restricted, and it's going to give me a congratulations, well done, and create my organization. You can now, you know, once you've, we can add in our users now, but I'm just going to skip that for the time being. And once it's sort of got itself going, I'm going to take you through a few the concepts behind, you know, Viva Goals. So I'm going to click on the admin, and it's going to tell me all the things I need to know about Viva Goals. So it's quite nice to give you a bit of a tour. Click on the admin, so you can see, you know, who can all join this organization. So if we need to change that later, we can. But there's a few things I just wanted to just pick out. The first one is time periods. So this is how you set up your, your time period for your planning. So we might have a year, an annual set of objectives, and those then get distilled down into smaller goals which support those annual objectives for each quarter. So you can see here we've got quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4 for 2022, and we can see that we're currently in quarter 3, and we can add and change these if we so wish. At the top, just notice the planning year. So this is something which your organization may change it depending on how you run your financial years, and you might be changing it to April if you were following the tax calendar year. So we can change those here. I talked about sort of check-ins and the frequency of check-ins. So that's found in notifications. So they call it the check-in rhythm, and here we can sort of configure when we want people to check in. So what happens there? Well, every the way it's configured at the moment, then every week, Monday at 9 a.m., the recipients who the owners of these objectives will be asked to check in on their OKRs and update their metrics. You can see that you can sort of change that down here, and we can change which days we want. We can even have it on multiple days. We did start on Friday, but actually I've sort of changed that so it's Monday morning. And then this summary update is once it will then send out basically a summary of the check-ins, of what's been going on, and it will do that automatically an hour after this check-in. I find that's a little bit early, so I would say we've changed that to 2 hours just to give people a bit more time. For example, we have a stand-up, for example. So yeah. So then everyone gets an update of what's going on. The other thing as well is we talked about Viva Goals got a lot of integrations. We talked about the check-in process, and there are 2 types. There's a manual and an automatic check-in, which will give a demonstration of the automatic later on. But these are all the different platforms which you can pull information from to enable that automated check-in. So lots of different options in here. One which we are going to use is SQL Server. And we'll configure that a little bit later. That's all we're going to use. Okay, so that's just giving you a bit of an overview of the admin functionality. So let's go ahead and set up our first OKR. Is there any questions? Anybody got any questions? No? Okay. So we're going to create an objective. We want it to be a SMART objective. So let's do that. So I've got one so that I've come up with already, but let's just sort of give an overview of what's going on here. So we're going to name our objectives. So our objective is going to be increase the number of LinkedIn followers 25% in 90 days. The different there's some different settings here. We've got different scopes for our objective. We've got different owners. We can change that to change to maybe it's going to be a department head who owns the objective, and then which time period it's in. If I click on the more options, I can assign it and delegate it to somebody else. I can also then configure it so that we can restrict who the people are that can view or update the objectives. So you can see here anybody can view and align. Anybody can view, and only selected people can align. And then you've sort of more restrictive, so that only selected people can view and align. So we've got a number of options there. So you can sort of see, and then if you choose one of the other options, then you can then start searching for people and adding them in, like you would with SharePoint permissions. We can put in a bit of a description in here. So I'll just grab that from my document. And the outcome is going to be measuring the goals at 100% completion. The progress is going to be rolled up from our key results, and then we're responsible for making check-ins. So we could also align this objective to another objective, which we're not going to do, but that's possible. And that's what you would do for your sort of department type objectives. So yeah, I've been congratulated that I've created my first objective, so that's great. And then being prompted to either add another objective or add a key result. So let's go and add a key result. So we talked about this this objective. We want to increase the number of LinkedIn followers by 25% over the in 90 days. So our measurement is the number of LinkedIn followers, or the number of followers we've got. So let's set this up. So the key result I'm going to call number of LinkedIn followers. And I've got this little button here which says add metric. So at the moment it's saying, well, it's measured as 100% complete, so using a percentage. But if I click on add on metric, I can then provide some other word for that metric. So I'm going to use the followers metric, and then I've got different ways of meeting the target. So I can say we need to reach a certain level, or we need to increase from one level to another, or decrease, or I've got a threshold that I need to keep above or stay below. So there's lots of flexibility there. I'm just going to have a look at this. Here you've also got you've got numbers, you've got currency in here as well, and a percentage. So I'm going to choose increase from. So I'm going to say, I think it was 180 followers. So we started off with, and so I've already calculated this. So I believe 25% is 225. Put that in. So once we reach 225, then we've met our goal, or we should have reached our goal, because we're going to have just one key result for subjective. And the progress, as I mentioned, you can either have manually or automatically from the data source. So we're just going to choose manually this time. And we are responsible for making check-ins. Again, we can sort of reassign this key result, who the owner is. We can delegate it to somebody else as well. We can again change the permissions so that we can restrict who can update this. And then we can see here that this is aligned to that objective, and we can always change that if we want to. So I'm going to create that objective. Did I put a description? No, I did not. Let's just put that description in. So we will then create. So now we can see there's a big exclamation mark, but now we've created an objective, and we've got a key result associated to that objective. And let's pretend that it's Monday morning, it's 9 a.m. And we need to update our we're asked to check in. So the process of updating these metrics is using check-ins. We get an email and a link into our OKRs, and I really like this bulk check-in. So I can click on that, and I can choose all the OKs that require updates. So I'll click on that. Oh, it tells me maybe I'll just do it this way then. So I will just check in on here. And we get a panel down the right hand side, and it's asking us to update that number of LinkedIn followers. So I'm going to do that. So I'm just going to update this to 210. And you can see that it's calculating because it's, we've got here the target based on the time period. So remember, this is from the 1st of July to the end of September. So, it's expecting to have 216 followers if we were to meet our target of 225. So we're behind. But I can also add a note. We had slow progress. Less followers this week to LinkedIn posts. I'm going to just check that in. So now that we've checked in, you can see that it's then updated the objective. It's got this sort of warning on here that we're behind. We can see that that we're now behind. So the key result is then updating, and we if we had multiple key results, we can those would both roll up to score that objective, and you can also weight your those key results, so you can have different weightings, which I'll show you shortly when we demonstrate projects and tasks. So we've talked about manual check-ins, and that's great. But what about, if we wanted to automate this so that people don't have to remember, and we've got some of our metrics just being automatically updated, and we get the software to do all the things. So let's have a go at that then. So we're going to convert this number of LinkedIn followers into an automatic check-in. So let's do that. So first of all, I need to go into the admin. I'm going to go into integrations. I'm going to, we're going to check in by reading some data out of a database. I'll click on manage. I'm going to create a new connection, and I'm just going to defer to all my content. So I've got we've got a database, and what we're doing is we've got an Azure function which is talking to LinkedIn and talking to the LinkedIn API and grabbing some information and using that to grab the number of followers out, and then it dumps that information into a database. Let's just zoom. Just got to grab my password. Just going to get this his last pass. So I've got it across here. Password in. Going to click next. So this is going to create a connection. Yeah. The port in there. All being well, it will connect. Okay, great. So that's now connected. So we've got this connection, and we, as you saw there, we can make this available to others if we so wish. I've chosen not to do that, but if you want to do that, then other people can set these things up as well, and they can set up their automatic check-ins. But I guess you would have that being sort of managed by a certain set of people in the organization. So I'm going to go to the number of LinkedIn followers, and we're going to edit this this key result, and we're going to switch it over so that the progress is updated in the data source. And then when we do that, it's going to ask us, you know, well, how are you going to do this? So I'm just going to do a search for SQL Server. And you can see then, because we've only got one connection, it's popped up there, but you can see if we click on this, we can choose and create another connection here if you so wished. And then we've got, you know, sort of a simple way of talking to that database. So we're going to define a SQL query to grab, and it needs to grab one number. So let me defer to my instructions. I'm going to do of type SQL query. And what our function does is it populates a database table, you know, inserting a number of followers, and it does it, you know, there's multiple rows, so every day it runs. So what we're going to do is, you know, order the results by timestamp, so going from the latest to the earliest, and then just grab the first one off the top, and then just grab the number of followers column. So that should have our number in, and if I click on validate query, it should execute, and hopefully that's all right. So now we can see that we've actually got 245 followers. So we'll click on next, and we'll save that. And so hopefully quite quickly it will sort of pick up on that. So it's picked up that it's now ahead, and then it's we've met our objective. So that just shows you an automated check-in, and something I'm going to go off piece because I haven't got this in my instructions. But once you've met your objective, then you then sort of close it down. So you can use that to, you know, that time to kind of learn, you know, or you know, explain what you've learned from achieving this objective. And it might be that, you know, we say, right, well, it was too easy. 25% was too easy in that 90 days, so we need to increase that. So then, you know, you're starting to stretch yourself to see, right, okay, you know, let's see what can we push, can we get that to 30%? So you're starting to push the organization further than you were before. Okay, so that's key results. Is there any questions? All right, okay.
So there were a couple of questions, Simon.
Oh, was there? Sorry. I
was just turning my microphone back on. So Nikki was asking about whether there are standard metrics that can be set up. So, for example, employee satisfaction, where you're measuring that thing, like, you know, regularly, repeatedly, every time, and you can just plug it straight into the next iteration of the OKRs.
Yes, you certainly can. You can have them, you know, like repeat each quarter. Yeah.
And where you've got a relationship between those, so you've got, I can't remember what the word you use, but where one OKR is related to another one, can you have the whole hierarchy cascaded hierarchy repeat?
Sort of cascaded up. Yes. I will say I have not, like, we're on this journey at the moment, and I haven't set these things up. I've set some teams up, but I haven't set up you know, sort of the department. So yeah, I've sort of been blogging about this as we're on this journey, but it's what we're sort of doing next. But yeah, you can roll up, and you can have, you know, from what I've read, you can have those calculations then roll up and come through up to that top level objective, because, you know, that's you know, it's what you need to be able to do, isn't it? You know, otherwise it doesn't really mean anything if you can't see that at the top and then drill down to those departments and teams and individuals as well. But yeah, you can certainly have those repeated. And what happens is that when you get to the end of your time period, you then choose which ones kind of, you know, get copied over into the next time period. So is that okay? So So the next thing then is to talk about projects and tasks. So what I wanted to do is define a new objective, and then we will have a key result, and then also a project as well underneath that. So let's do that. So similar to what we did before, we're going to call it launch the Power Platform development service, and post one piece of marketing content LinkedIn about the service. So we've got something which we're wanting to achieve. We've got a way of measuring it. There's a way we're telling people that we've launched it. So we've got that objective, and just going to add that. So a slightly different way of adding. I'm just going to go in and edit this. So we've got our outcome is going to be that it's 100% complete, and we're not delegated. So I'm going to save that, and then we're going to add in an objective. Sorry, a key result. Sorry. I'm going to add a key result, which is going to be lost my number of LinkedIn posts. Our platform, I've got Fusion development. So that's going to be our metrics. So posts, a number of posts, and then we'll go from 0 to 1. Create that key result. And then the next part we're going to do is then create a project. So if we click on the 3 dots, we click on our project, and this is going to be the activities which we need to launch this this new service. So create. So the project's going to be I don't know, our platform Fusion development service, and then this time the outcome is not based on any metrics. It's just going to be based on the metrics are going to be the tasks. So we're going to create a project, and then we're going to then define the tasks which make up that project. Just going to open up in full view. There you go. That's what I was looking for. I'm going to click on here. So we get a opening up in full view. We can see everything around this project. But what's nice here is we can then break down this project into its tasks. So I'm just going to copy over some of the tasks which we have. And as you can see, you can add tasks in Viva Goals directly, or you can add them from a data source. So you do have other project management tools which you can use. There's Asana there as well. But I'm going to use tasks in Viva Goals. Create that service description. I'm going to create a sales pitch deck. I'm going to create some website content. The web for a web page that describes the service. We need to create some marketing content. I think the project management tool is quite basic, but it's good to get the high level activities. I think if you're wanting to really get down into project management, this might not be the tool you'd use, but you might capture the high level tasks and then break those down into another tool. Integrate, so we're going to integrate our website into Dynamics CRM, so we generate any contact from the website, generates leads in Dynamics, and then the last ask is to launch the service. You know, we can set due dates here as well. Have that tomorrow, and following day, etc. Eventually, we want to get this 30th. We can also assign it to different people as well. You get the idea. And then the progress is then going to, you know, automatically update based on the completed tasks. Anything else to say there? Okay, so we'll click on save. Okay, so now we've got our, you can see our tasks are there, and you know, we can see that it's aligned to this objective. And if I go back, let's go back actually, and then you can see we've got now our project here with nothing done. We've got our key result here. So let's update the tasks in the project and just show how that feeds in. So I'm going to untick that, I think. Let me just see. So we're going to go through these and say that we've completed these. I've gone and ticked this, which is meaning that it's not going to update. Oh no, it's in the project. I know. Okay, that's good. Let's just see if its updates are objective. So we've got these being updated. So our progress of our project has been updated. And I've definitely turned that off. I need to work out to switch that back on again. And then we've got our number of LinkedIn posts as well. So, you know, we haven't, this is not updated this, which I was expecting it to. Let me just see if I can sort that out. It's when you click on things you don't need, isn't it? Anyway, right, that should have updated. I'll then check in on our number of posts. So we've done all the things we said we were going to do. We've generated the website content. We've done all the dynamic stuff. We've created our content, and we've then posted that onto LinkedIn. So we can now say that we've increased this number of posts. So which is one. That's what I've got in my instructions in it. Right. So then that will then update through here shortly. That's annoying. I will have to work out what's happened there. Anyway, had I not pressed that, this would then update and through. Has that gone checked in? Oh, sorry, I haven't checked that in that way. So let me just update that. That comes through. This then updates our objective. So had I not done that, we'd have then seen that this was being updated as part of the overall objective. But you know, one of the things which we can do is we can you know, change the way that, you know, that those different you know, our project and our key result, you know, the weighting of it as well. So you can change the contributions. So for us to do that, I believe it's in here. We've got this manage contributions. So here we can then say, right, there we go. Look, I think that's probably what it was, which wasn't it? So we could say that, that this is 50%. 50%. So you can change the weighting. So it might be, you've got the LinkedIn post, but you haven't finished the tasks. So the overall objective is not, or it might be that the project is generating a lot more of there's a lot more effort required in that project. So that is creating a larger percentage of what's being delivered for that objective versus the key result at the end there, which doesn't have so much effort behind it. So then you have a different contribution. So we might say this might be 20% for the number of LinkedIn posts, but the actual overall project is delivering more of the contribution. Okay. Is there any more questions? I'll just flip back. Hi, Dylan. Yes.
Yeah, I've got a whole load of questions, and it's more to do with automation. So I don't know whether I should bring those in at the end or interrupt your flow now.
I've got one last bit to talk about, so let's go to the dashboards, and then we'll go into it. Yeah, so that sounds good. So the last bit I just want to talk about was dashboards. We talked about how you can report on the progress on your objectives, and so this is where dashboards come in. We've got this sort of overview here. We can add in, like maybe we're preparing for our presentation, we can add some updates in here. So we managed to turn off the project weightings, which messed up. Start our objective calculation. The overall project has gone well. I can sort of add a key update, but also you can add in additional panels. So these become new pages when you're viewing or presenting your dashboard. So we might then have a panel of key performance indicators. So you click on that, and I've got the number of followers on there, and I can add those in. I can add another widget as well, so you can add more detail around. So we might have the project list and that in, so we can see the breakdown of that project. You can always change as well the things which you want here. So and then so we've got some widgets in here. We can change this view here, so we get this kind of like Power BI type card, but we can also, this is quite cool, this sort of table, so you can kind of see how things have changed over the previous check-ins, which is quite smart. So we'll switch back to that grid. But once I've got my dashboard ready, I can then present this, and so it will take that first panel and show it, and we can then talk through what's been going on, for this objective and how we're on track and things. And you can see the progress then. Well, we didn't do anything, we're really lazy, and then suddenly we thought we better do something, so we just all did it in the last few hours. And then the top here, I can then flick through to the next panel, which we then talk about, sort of maybe delve into, those key results and why they've gone up, to 245. Delve into the project information in this example as well. Let me just refer back to my notes. Yeah, that's it from my demonstration. So I will stop sharing, and you can sort of have a chat. Dylan, you were talking about Automation. I'm just going to check the channel. All right. Cheers, Nikki. That's great. So Dylan, what got automations? What are you thinking?
Well, for something like this to work, it has to be low effort for people, doesn't it? So I like the idea of objectives get assigned to you automatically, so the individual employee doesn't have to do that, and that the progress is done there. Have you tried integrating with DevOps? Because obviously you could have you could have OKRs that are tied to, say, check-ins or commits or bug fixes and things like that. And it strikes me as being quite a powerful way of measuring developers.
Yeah, I've looked at it briefly. I've certainly been intrigued by what you can do. I think a lot of it is, you would set up queries, to set up your sort of queries to be able to do it. But I haven't configured anything. I just started looking into what was possible. But yeah, you can certainly do things like measuring the number of bugs created or something like that. Yeah.
Or unit test coverage, or things like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we could have a quick go.
Although there is a Dilbert cartoon that satirizes that whole thing, but I'll just find it.
Let's have a look. So yeah, so you're gonna choose your account name, and then it's got to go to a particular project as well. So I guess you might have create a corporate metrics project which then holds all this information. I don't think how you'd roll that all up.
Yeah, there's a famous Dilbert cartoon where the pointy-haired boss comes up with something where they say that we'll measure you by the number of KLOC, thousands of lines of code you write, and Wally goes, "I'm going to code me a new minivan." So, yeah, it's the only danger of automated metrics, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And a lot of it is, think about, are you measuring the right thing? Are the objectives the right thing? But yeah.
The other one that would be useful is if you could tie in dynamics, particularly for customer services, if you could automatically assign objectives to people that are pertinent to certain roles. So in other words, if you're a call center agent, you might have an OKR on customer satisfaction, because you measure that customer sentiment and satisfaction is pretty easy to measure. So I can see some powerful things there, but it would have to be done in a way that the person had very little effort to get it set up. So in other words, these were given to them automatically based on role, and the data would be filled in automatically.
Yeah, so I mean, something like that, there isn't a sort of Dataverse connection, but you might use like Azure Synapse or something like that to extract some of this information, do some transformation on it, and then pop it into SQL or pop it into I guess it would probably be easy.
It'd have to go through SQL, but I could see that being very powerful for call center agents being able to measure customer satisfaction and sentiment, because all that stuff's in Dataverse.
Yeah, and then especially when you start rolling that all up, and you're then saying, right, well, individually that's their satisfaction score, but and then being able to see that from a business, and sort of
or departments. So you have one department dealing with repairs, another department dealing with something else, and you can measure them. So that's powerful. That's the only thing, is you'd have to create these automatically. The other one is, did you show us how it cascades up to your boss? In other words, can your boss watch your objectives?
Yes. So I haven't, in the demo, I haven't talked about how you can create teams. So it is something which, a bit more time I would put together. But that's how you do it, and then your department you'd have a department head, and then you would then have the individual objectives within that. So that then people could, your department heads could then see those. And you can have, by default, it's everyone's going to have access to everybody's, you can see it, you can see all of all of the objectives or the key results, unless when you're setting these things up, you decide to restrict those down to specific people. So you do have that some of that control.
Yeah, I can see some really powerful things with it. It's also see the potential for both abuse and for people meeting the goals and gaming the system a little bit.
Yeah, but then that's right. But then that's what that's really what your one-to-ones are, and if people start gaming the system, they're going to get found out, aren't they? So yeah, that's that's down to the culture of the business as well, isn't it?
It is. I've just posted the Dilbert cartoon I was thinking of, actually.
Cool. Okay. Well, look, what we'll do, I've got a couple more slides to go through, and then we'll have a quick look at these DevOps afterwards, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So let me just go back to my slides. Right. So share. Let's flip through to. Oh, sorry, Dan. You were asking, Dan. Sorry.
Yeah, the thought that occurred to me was could you have these OKRs, a bunch of these OKRs feeding into like a corporate objective like revenue. So you talked about LinkedIn followers, but that could be customers, couldn't it? It could be sales initiatives, and
Yeah, exactly.
That would be because that'd be measurable across the whole organization. So these little projects that you've got are aligning with that key objective.
Well, with your objective. So you'd have your objective might be across the business, increase the revenue by 10%, and then each department then is looking to increase sales of their services by by an amount, which then feeds into that 10%. And then you might have when you're sort of divvying down, the marketing department have to make increase the number of leads by 20%, sales increase conversion of leads and opportunities by 5%, or there could be different ways.
The cost of the marketing against what the return on investment sort of thing, and also amount of effort in some of these, but like the effort this person making that website, that Power Platform sales website, and how much that brings in, and how many leads that brings in versus the cost of building it and testing it, sort of thing. So it's return on investment as well as the amount of effort in that you're going to make.
Okay, yeah. So you could have that as another key result. Yeah. The point is, it's really as a business, you're going to sort of you understand the business, and you understand which direction you want to go. So yeah, I mean, that is the one thing about Viva Goals, is it is quite different. It's less of really isn't a technical aspect of it. Yes, there's a bit maybe in these integrations, but I think there's more sort of management consultant, business coach type skills in running Viva or implementing Viva Goals in a business, because it's more what makes a good goal, what makes how do you get an organization to sort of adopt this, and those are quite different. Well, not the adoption piece isn't different, but those the business side of it is different, I think. So yeah.
So where do you think
costs yet?
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Daniel.
I was going. Have you got a slide on costs? Because I asked that earlier on. I was thinking all the way through
I
this.
sure have. Yes.
How much is going to cost? Carry on, Simon.
Yeah. So
well, I was going to touch on that question, which is something I've raised in the MVP meetings. It does feel like it's a consulting business development kind of a thing, but I think there are some technical bits, and I'm making the assumption that that when you actually have to have proper tech, that's about writing integrations to your own line of business applications.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
So there is a a technical opportunity for traditional Microsoft partners to be able to do that, probably working alongside the business consultant who's embedding it in the culture. The techs are embedding it in the systems.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, making sure that the systems are recording those measures somewhere and making those visible to Viva Goals. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I can actually see this being really powerful with the right price if you can get the automations, just because the problem with adoption is going to be making it low effort, isn't it?
Yeah. But there is something, you still want those, you still want those check-ins. You still want the, why is that metric what it is? And because otherwise I think it's one of those things that just happens in the background and people kind of forget about it. So you still do need people to be involved in the process. If it's all automated, then suddenly they're like, well, why haven't you met this objective? Oh yeah, I thought, oh, I forgot about that. It's got to be sort of in the, I think, it needs to be in the DNA of the business, so that everyone understands this is how they're being measured, this is how their performance is being measured as well. Again, it's coming back to that sort of sense of purpose, like why are you, why is it that you're being asked to do these things? Cool. Okay, so thanks for sort of going. Let me take you through that on a demo. So I just wanted to cover a couple of, I think about another 3 or 4 slides. So sort of next steps, in terms of licensing, my understanding is there's kind of 2 ways of getting this this product. So it's not part of your Microsoft 365 license. You either get it through the Viva Suite license, which I checked this morning, it was £6.80 per user per month, and that gives you topics, goals, LinkedIn Learning, and Viva Insights. Or you can buy a standalone Viva Goals license, which is £4.50 per user per month. So yeah, it's not that much more, but I'm guessing if you've got a few thousand employees, then it's a bit more. But yeah, so you've got some licensing costs there to think about. And then in terms of sort of, adopting this, the Microsoft Adoption Center has got a Viva Goals guide, which we'll have a link to. So the place to start is by reading that, and it's got some great fodder in there about how to roll this out into through an organization. But these sort of approaches, to educate yourself, and there's Microsoft Learn content, building a team of champions who can then support the rollout of this capability, and making sure those champions are educated, and then educating the workforce as well. So there's some Microsoft Learning, getting started with Viva Goals is a good course to start with. But then they suggest starting off with a pilot. So for me, that makes sense. It's particularly to get the senior management team bought into it, get them thinking about their objectives, sort of start with them, and then start them maybe picking a department, and then going sort of from a top down perspective. The adoption guide's got communication snippets and examples, so sort of the types of emails and things you could use. So now we're going to be using the intranet and our stand-ups to talk a lot about how we're going to roll it out. And I'm going to use these slides as my as my way of introducing the concept to the business. So I've got a set of useful resources, so I'll make these available, these slides available. So there's a Viva Goals adoption guide in there, so it's a great PDF which takes you through the process. This is sort of one of the better guides to OKRs that I've found. And I mentioned, the some of the Microsoft Learn content, but this is the place to get started. Getting started with Viva Goals. And there's links to how to create OKRs and things like that, and following, as part of that is getting to know OKRs as well. So you've got sort of introduction to the tooling, and then introduction to the concepts, and that's it. So what do you think?
I mean, I think it's very powerful. I've always had a bit of a love-hate relationship with organizational objectives, but that's because they frequently lack rigor or commitment and are often not linked up and down the chain. So they end up being a tick box exercise rather than something which is meaningful and aligned. This seems better than that. It seems like it's not horribly complex to set up, but that was a question that I was going to ask you is, I mean, how much time do you think you've spent in your organization getting this stood up, and how much of that is technical implementation, and how much of that is thinking really hard about what objectives and measures there should be?
So technically I don't think it isn't too difficult. There is a bit of there's a bit of that upfront, thinking about when aligning things to your year, the start of your years. But yeah, the time is more the business, planning, like what is your strategy for the year, what is it, how are you going to create good objectives based on what you want to achieve in that year, and how do you break those down. But I mean, let's forget about this Viva Goals stuff. That is always,
you should be doing that anyway.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. It's really helped us sort of move forward. So
I guess going back to the first bit, as a maybe it's still both questions actually. If you were knowing what you know now, how long would you tell an organization they need to spend on setting this up at maybe a departmental level, or how many manager hours are we talking about?
I think it is. I think it is quite. It is a bit of time. I will know more once we've been through this full cycle, like a full quarter with the departments. But yeah, that we've got. You probably, if you're doing, I guess it's probably what, maybe 4 or 5 hours to kind of set up and go through with the departments, but they're going to have their thinking time, aren't they? So I don't know. I'll need to. I'll get them to record it, and so we can then have something which is less of a guesstimate. But to set up to set the OKs ours up, when we do the planning, it's half a day, and then it's probably then another 2 or 3 hours then to start breaking down. There's and like validate the things, like if you're creating a project and the activities, then that's sort of 2 or 3 hours to go. Does that is that correct? Does that seem right? Making a few tweaks. So I probably think that you would be spending probably a day, at least a day a month, a day and a half a month, with the teams, reviewing, getting feedback, planning. I think that would be sort of about that.
That's your biggest running cost, isn't it? I was just thinking about that. It's more expensive than the licensing for sure. I know there may be an incumbent system you're replacing and you look at the advantage, but I'm just trying to think of how you sell this to somebody, and you're saying, well, there's the license cost and there's the cost of maintaining the system, because it obviously needs maintaining, otherwise it becomes irrelevant and the goals are no longer fit for purpose and it'll cease to be useful.
But sort of the technical aspect, like inputting the data and things like that, it's there isn't that much. Once you've got your plan sort of written down, you're just putting that information in. Most of your time, it's thinking. Is this? Are these the right goals which we need to be setting? are we aligned to the business? You know, and there will be that discussion, you know, with department heads and their managers to kind of say, right, you know, the business goals are these, you know, therefore, you know, we're thinking these goals, you know, and having that sort of, yeah, that feedback.
Yeah, templating goals on roles seems sensible. So in other words, if you're a certain person, like a developer, or say you're a support desk analyst or something like that, that you'd have a certain number of things, because that would help you implement them, wouldn't it? So there's less effort to get the goals set up every 90 days.
Yeah. So, you know, we were just talking about, you know, one thing which we did, Nikki mentioned was, you know, how do we, you know, we sort of, you know, how do you then sort of set these, you know, these goals so that they roll on to the next time period? So
Mm-hmm.
when you come to the end of your, you know, well, you can close these objectives. So when they get met, you close them. And I will add this into the presentation, but you do close these, and then you have got this continuing work on this another time period, so you can sort of click on, you know, and then it gets cloned into the next quarter, and the progress will be reset.
Okay, that's cool. That's the useful bit, because some people do have relatively repetitious jobs and some people don't. But if anything you can do to make the goals the same, would help, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm just thinking of things where you're measuring things like customer satisfaction, because you're always going to have that goal whilst you're in that job.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, and I guess, you know, you delegate that to, you know, to you know, people, you know, to some you know, if you've got heads of departments, they might delegate it to, you know, to someone in their team to manage. So
Yeah. The only thing is the automation requires a little bit of technical chops, but yeah, I can see it being useful in certain roles. I really can, where they're easily measured.
Yeah, and I think you can make that easier, couldn't you? The, you know, the technical aspect of it, by, you know, just, you know, using, you know, if you've got data by department and things, you know, you're using the same department names and giving some guidance, and you can even probably, you know, put that guidance in Viva topics maybe, so that you'll capture Viva goals, your OKR process. Yeah, but once you've got it set up, then, you know, and then you're, you know, and then it's being cloned, then, you know, it's more about tweaking the metric and saying, well, actually, we need to go up higher or lower. So
yeah, I'm just amazed there's no Dataverse integration, because it's like Microsoft's big platform for data, and you can't.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure that will change, isn't it? You know, I imagine a lot of the effort's gone into Microsofting it, and then there'll be more progress going on. But
I'm sure it'll be there soon, because it's the obvious thing to do, isn't it? Because that's where you put stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's a really good point. I mean, you know, this technology was acquired from, you know, by Microsoft, and as you say, they would have spent most of their time right now, you know, embedding it in the Microsoft platform. But you're right, you know, thinking ahead, the kinds of things that you're going to often want to track could be captured within a Power App, for example, you know, stored within Dataverse or you know, or similar. And so you've got to think they're going to start to want to integrate with that and encourage people to create dedicated tracking apps to do check-ins into Viva Goals.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it can be built into somebody's workflow. Say you're somebody that has a Dynamics process. You know, one of your objectives would be to complete so many of these to a certain result. You know, do 10 of these and reach a, you know, say a fault finding result of, you know, 50% of your result. 50% of your processes are considered a success or something like that.
Yeah. Very. Yeah, a lot of opportunity, I think.
Yeah. It's been really useful. It's really set my mind. I'm going to have to process this. I think it's definitely a useful tool. I've trouble is trying to think of the sale it fits, but I can see this as being useful.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
I think it is a not technical sale. That's what's difficult. You know, you need
Yeah.
to be going in as a management consultant, saying you need to do OKRs. Which OKR platform do you want to use? There's, you know, there is an OKR platform, or if you're already embedded in the Microsoft space, you ought to be using this because it integrates with your tooling.
Yeah, I mean, I see this as part of a bigger sale in the sense of if you're going in there with a customer service management system, this might be a way of doing your, you know, measuring your metrics of how well
Well,
it's
that's an
doing.
interesting point, Dylan, is, you know, in my mind, it's always been you need to implement this organization wide. But actually, in a bigger organization, you might say, we're just going to put it in our customer call center operation. You know,
Yeah.
we really ought to have it everywhere, but to manage it, yeah, I've got a team of 300 people in this call center. I'm going to just implement it at that level.
yeah, and that could be a good, you know, good pilot, couldn't it, to start start them on that journey. Yeah,
It would tie really well with the sort of data you get because it's a data-rich environment and you can really measure things, you know, like how many calls, how many chats, the resolution, you know, whether cases are resolved. It really does fit with that very well. They're easy to measure because it's an uncontroversial number where if you say something woolly like, you know, increase revenue by 10%, it's like, well, whose responsibility is that? And it's much woollier, whereas saying, you know, answer at least 10 calls per day, that's an easy one to measure, isn't it? You've got that data.
But I think one of the interesting and also challenging things about it is it really does try and make you connect up to really hard measures. Yeah, because if you can get them out of a system, then it's a hard measure. Whereas an awful lot of objectives tend to be quite woolly and not definitively measurable.
yeah.
And so I think that in the management, the business management process, getting that set up will be quite painful for organizations.
Yeah.
Once you've done it, there's no wriggling out of it. It's like, no, you say that you've done really well this month, but the call center data or the LinkedIn data or the the follows data, whatever it is, say otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Customer satisfaction is down this month. Explain that one.
Yeah. It's not negotiable. What we can talk about is the reasons why, but the numbers are the numbers. So.
Indeed. Right. I've got to fly and pick Charlie up, but it's been really fascinating. And I do want to catch up with you guys properly before Bletchley, and we will catch up in Bletchley anyway.
Yes. Are you, well, have you guys booked your hotels yet?
I haven't booked a hotel yet, no.
We ought to try and just get our heads together. I'm going to try and look at that tomorrow if we get half a chance. I probably won't, but we ought to try and coordinate so we are all at least in the same sort of place together.